What's up everyone, this is Drea here, and today I am bringing you my full review of the HTC U12 Plus. I've been using this phone for a couple weeks now, and I'm here to give you my impressions of it and tell you all the things that I like and don't like about this phone. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so as always, let's go ahead and get started by talking about the design and build quality of this phone. Now, the U12 Plus does carry on the trend started by the U Ultra, meaning that HTC has gone with a glass back on this phone. And it's got the liquid surface hair glass, so it's really shiny and reflective on the back, which is just beautiful. And of course, this color that I have here is the translucent blue. So if I bring it up close, it's a little hard to see with the lighting in this room, but bringing it up close, you can see that you get just a glimpse of the inside of the phone. So that's a very unique color that they did it with the U11 Plus last year when they had a translucent black. So this time they've gone with a translucent blue, and I really love it. I love the color altogether. I like the dark blue finish on it, and overall it just looks really nice, and having it translucent kind of sets it apart from other phones. In terms of how it feels in the hand, it does feel really nice in the hand. It's a little bit thicker than other phones, which is actually a good thing because it kind of does have a more hefty feel than the U11, which to me the U11 did feel very fragile, and I was always careful about holding it. But this one, it feels like it can handle a lot more than the U11 can. Whether or not that's true remains to be seen. I'm not trying to drop this phone at all, but it just feels I'm not as careful with it because it feels like it's got more heft to it. So I really like that, and I also like the fact that now it's got that slimmer 18:9 aspect ratio, so it's a lot easier to hold in the hand. So overall, very nice design and build quality from HTC. Flipping it over to the front, we do have a nice 6-inch LCD display here. Now again, I know a lot of people prefer OLED panels on their phones, but for me I think HTC makes the nicest LCD panels, and the colors are very rich, and I really don't have any complaints in terms of the color of the screen. In terms of the brightness, it is a little bit duller than I would like. Certainly not as bright as the U11, which, I mean, on day-to-day use, I don't notice it much, and I have gotten used to the screen, but every time I bring up my U11, I can really see the difference there in the screen brightness. So that's just one of the things I wish that HTC had done, was go back to the same exact display that they had on the U11. But yeah, overall, not much complaints about it. I still get good visibility outside in the daylight, cranking it up to full brightness. So no real complaints there. It's just that when you do compare it side by side with the U11, you do notice that it's not quite as bright. So as I mentioned in my unboxing video, the software should come as no surprise to anybody. This is running HTC's Sense UI on top of Android 8.0. And it's pretty much the exact same software experience that you will get on the U11 from last year. So HTC could probably benefit from updating the overall look of their UI, but I mean, overall it works really well. It's a very trimmed down UI, not a whole lot of bloatware can be found on it, and HTC doesn't really do duplicate apps, so you're only going to find one Play Store, one calendar, and so on. They do integrate a lot of Google apps into their phones, so it's a lot more slimmed down than you would find on other UIs, such as a Samsung UI or LG's. So that's what I really like about it. They do stay true to themselves, of course, though, and you still have features like Blink Feed off to the leftmost side there. Now, Blink Feed, I mean, I've gotten used to using it. If you don't like it, certainly you can remove it from your home screen. I do think that over the years, Blink Feed has kind of gotten worse in terms of the news content that they put on there. And I do actually wish, since they are integrating a lot with Google, I do wish that they would just put Google Now over there. But the good news is if you don't really care for it, you can always remove it. Now, the other big feature of Sense UI is the implementation of EdgeSense. So EdgeSense is the feature where you can squeeze the sides of the phones to launch a particular action. So for example, I have it where if I do a short squeeze, it will launch the camera. And if I do a squeeze and hold, it will turn on my flashlight. Turn it on and turn it off. So I love that feature. This is updated to EdgeSense 2.0, so it's got some new things that you wouldn't find on the U11 here. So you can come into the settings and click on EdgeSense, and you'll be brought into the EdgeSense settings here. And here you can customize it to do different actions. So if you didn't want it to launch the camera, you can choose from this list of other options, launch a different app or a different action. Now, what is new about the EdgeSense 2.0 is the ability to set a double tap action. So if you do that, and right now I've got it disabled, but if you do that, you can double tap at the sides of the phone, and I've got it set up to take a screenshot, so you can do that, and it will work on either side of the frame there. No matter if you go to the left or the right, you can do that and launch whatever action you choose. Now for me, the reason I had it disabled is because I found that the double tap action just doesn't work as well as the short squeeze or the long squeeze. When I had it set up to take a screenshot, it was just taking screenshots all the time. Even when I just pick up the phone and hold it normally like that, a screenshot will go off. So to be completely honest, I have found that the double tap action just doesn't work that well. It's less sensitive if you put a case on it, and I do have a case for the phone, which did help with the sensitivity. But then on the flip side, it turned out that when I did want to take a screenshot and use the double tap action, it was much harder to do, and I would keep tapping at it before it would actually work. So the feature just doesn't work that well for me with a case or without a case. So I just disabled that altogether. Now I've got the navigation bar set up where I can just take a screenshot that way, and that way works a lot better, and I'm not taking 1,000 screenshots a day. But that's my experience with the double tap action. Again, the short squeeze and the squeeze and hold both work really well as they did on the U11, and I really like having that feature. So again, some people say it's a gimmick to do that, to squeeze the sides of the phone, but hey, I found that it's really helpful, and it's a fast way to launch the camera. It's a fast way to turn on the flashlight, so I'm glad that HTC has stuck with it. Now, along those same lines with EdgeSense, HTC do have these new buttons here on the side of their phone, and of course, most people probably know by now, but the buttons are not actual clickable buttons. They do operate with haptic feedback instead. So there's been a lot of talk and a lot of controversy about these buttons. So I'm here to give you my experience of it. I can't really talk about other reviewers and what they're saying. You know, I'm not here to contradict their experiences, but just to give my honest review. And for me, the buttons work pretty much flawlessly. I haven't had any issues with them at all. So if I want to raise my volume, I could raise it. If I want to decrease it, it happens. I don't get any phantom touches. Nothing like that has happened for me. It's worked just as well as any clickable button for me. So I don't really have any complaints about it at all. I don't think it was a necessary change for HTC to make. Certainly regular clickable buttons were fine, that nobody's really ever complained about. So I don't think it was necessary for them to change it. But at the same time, for me, it works. It works flawlessly. So I don't have anything bad to say about it. The only issue that you would really have with these buttons is that there are certain actions you can't do. For example, a popular one has been to, when the screen is off, to double tap on the power button to launch the camera. And that can't be done on this phone. And it's kind of weird because if you go to display and gestures here, it's an option to double tap. Okay, quick launch camera by pressing power button twice. It's an option to do that, and yet it doesn't work. I've tried it numerous times, and it never happens. So I don't know if anybody else has ever gotten that feature to work, but for me it has never worked. So they really need to remove that from the settings because I just don't think it's something that's possible to do with these haptic feedback buttons. The other thing is that on every other Android phone, you can hold the power button and the volume down button at the same time to take a screenshot. And again, that's not possible with these haptic feedback buttons. Now for me, it's a non-issue because if I want to launch the camera quickly, again, I just do a short squeeze, and to me that works even faster than tapping the power button twice. So I prefer that. And in terms of taking a screenshot, I mean, again, I've showed you that you can do it from the navigation bar here, or you can actually set it again using the Edge Sense. You can set that as one of the features of it. So for me, that's a non-issue, the fact that you can't like double tap the home button or anything. But for some people, if it's an issue, if that's your favorite way to launch the camera, then yeah, maybe this isn't the phone for you because you can't do it. But that's all I have to say about the buttons. They work, no complaints. I've never had an issue where I pressed it and it didn't work. So yeah, that's my experience with it. Moving on now to the camera. The camera has been improved a lot on the U12 Plus. This does now have 4 cameras total. Over on the back we have dual 12 megapixel camera and a 16 megapixel camera, which is different from the single shooter that found on the U11. And on front we also have dual 8 megapixel cameras, which are there purely to assist in the bokeh mode. For those nice portrait style selfies. So the cameras have worked really well for me here. The interface is very easy, simple to use, not a whole lot of features. If you come up to the settings area here, you'll see the options here for panorama, pro mode. They do have selfie panorama, which I like. It's not as good as having a wide angle selfie camera, but at least it still helps when you do have like a lot of maybe people in your selfies you want to take a photo of. You can get them all in. But really basic settings here for the camera mode, nothing mind-blowing. You do have the ability to do slow motion video at 240 frames per second here. But overall, I've been impressed with the camera and the photos coming out of it. Down at the bottom here, you can check that to enable the bokeh mode on it. And overall, in my experience, I found that the bokeh mode works well. It's certainly not my favorite implementation of portrait style shots that I've gotten on a camera phone. While the overall picture comes out well, when you look in the viewfinder, it's hard to see the image that you're capturing. Everything does look a little bit blurry at first, so you kind of gotta just go with your gut and take the shot. And most of the times it comes out well, and you do have the ability to manually adjust the blurred background after you take the picture. So that part's really neat, but again, it's not my favorite implementation. And then of course in lower light situations, you always get it saying unable to take the bokeh mode. So not my favorite, but again, works pretty decently. But overall, shots have been coming out clear. As always, I do have some sample photos that I'm going to show you, and I would love to hear your comments about it, about the picture quality. So I'm going to show those to you coming up right now. Okay, so those are just some samples, and again, I'd love to hear your opinion of them in the comments. Let me know how you think it stacks up against other camera phones out there. But yeah, overall, I like the quality of the photos, and I do think they perform really well under low light situations. I'm testing it out against the Huawei P20 that I have to see, because that phone takes really good low light photos as well. So I really want to see which phone I think does better, and I'll probably do a comparison video for you guys. But yeah, let me know what you think about it. Going on to the rest of the camera, in terms of video footage, you do have the ability to do 4K video recording from the back. Over on the front, you can only go up to 1080p for front-facing video. Now, one of the things with the rear camera is that if you do shoot in 4K, you're going to get a timer allowing you only 6 minutes worth of video. So keep that in mind. And it doesn't matter whether it's 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, you're always going to get that 6-minute countdown, which you can see, like I'm in video mode here, and if I press play, you can see it starting to count down there. So if you do a lot of video, a lot of vlogging, things like that, that's a little bit frustrating that you only get 6 minutes worth each time. But it does take really nice 4K video as well. So that's overall the camera in a nutshell for you. So I think one of the best features of the U12 Plus and of most HTC phones is their audio experience. On the U12 Plus, you do have a dual speaker setup. You do have the bottom firing speaker, and then the earpiece also doubles as the top speaker, giving you a nice, rich, clear sound. So I love it when phones implement dual speakers. It just sounds a lot better, a lot richer than single bottom firing speakers. And of course, HTC has always been known for their boom sound. Now again, this is not like the days of old where we had two front-facing speakers, and I really would love to see HTC bring that back. But again, this setup does work really well, and you get really nice, clear, and loud sound off of it. Also, in terms of using headphones, again, this phone does not have a headphone jack, so I know a lot of people will be upset by that, although by now it comes as no surprise with HTC, because they pretty much did away with the headphone jack since the U Ultra, and I don't think they're ever going to bring it back. But you do get HTC's U-Sonic headphones in the box here. And these are really great, and they come with active noise cancellation, and they're some of the best headphones that you can get in a box of a phone. So I love that they include them. What I'm not happy about is that they did not include a 3.5 millimeter headphone adapter with this phone. They included it with the U11 last year, and I think anytime that you sell a phone without a headphone jack, you need to include the adapter. I'm not sure what their reasoning was for not including it with this phone. But I mean, you can't just assume that everybody who purchases this phone are people who had the U11 last year. So there are a lot of people who probably bought this phone and now have no way of connecting their own wired headphones, and they gotta spend extra money to buy one from HTC's website. Now, of course, buying the adapter is not very expensive. It's only about $11, but still, I do think that they really needed to include it in the box to have that adapter. But on the flip side, you know, again, it's really nice they included the headphones, and they are really great quality headphones. So the final thing I'm going to talk about here is the battery life. Now, this phone does come with a 3500 milliamp hour battery, which is larger than the battery found on the U11. However, I found that that hasn't really translated well into usage. The battery life here has been decent at best. It's been decent. It's certainly not the worst I've used. It's also not the best I've used. I'm getting, on average, pretty consistently 5 hours of screen on time, which again isn't horrible, but it's also not great. I think the best phone that I've personally used for battery has been the OnePlus 5T, where I was getting 6.5, and sometimes 7 hours of screen on time. So this one is giving me some pretty decent battery life. I do think I got better battery life off of the U11, if I'm being honest, which is weird considering that it has a smaller battery. But yeah, typically I'm getting, and you can see here, there's a screenshot I took where it was at 17%. 5 hours. I am getting about a full day's use out of it. I charge it maybe every 26 hours or so. That's pretty typical use for me. But yeah, pretty consistently I've been hitting that 5 hour mark, and not much more than that. Not much more, not much less. If there's one thing I can say about it, it is consistent in how it performs. And now, of course, battery life depends on how you use your phone. And for me, I don't consider myself really a power user. I mean, I use it for natural everyday uses, browsing on Google Chrome, using it for social media. I'll watch a few YouTube videos here and there, but I don't do anything crazy with my phone. I'm not a gamer, and I also don't watch movies or TV shows on it. It's not like I'm sitting on Netflix on my phone. So again, I'm not a power user, so if that's the way you use your phone, you're probably not going to get great battery life out of it here. So I think hopefully a software update or something that would better optimize the battery usage would definitely be needed. It's not something that I've loved, with the battery life. I do want to see better out of it. Considering that it's a larger battery size than the U11, I was really looking for much better battery life. But overall, I'm getting a full days of use out of it, so it's not like I'm walking around with my charging cable. The other thing I will say is that even with the glass back, HTC has neglected to put wireless charging. And for me, that's kind of a big no-no. And it's not that I think wireless charging is better than wired charging. Of course, this has Quick Charge 3.0. It actually supports Quick Charge 4.0. And overall, wire charging is better. But the thing about wireless charging is it's a convenience thing. If you're out and about, I think more and more restaurants or cafes are going to be implementing wireless charging. And a lot more cars, new vehicles are being built with wireless charging pads. So it is a convenience thing. And at the price of this phone, this is at a premium price, it really should have wireless charging. At this price point of $800, I expect all the bells and whistles out of this phone, and I think it was a big no-no, especially if you're trying to compete with the likes of Samsung and the likes of LG. It's something that HTC really needed to put on it. That's my personal opinion. Again, I'm not arguing that wireless charging is better than wire charging. I'm just saying it's a convenience thing. And if you're going to go with a glass back, again, a much inferior quality than a metal phone, you might as well put wireless charging, because that is the one benefit of having a glass back. So that's pretty much what I'm going to say about the battery. Now everything else, I do love this phone. Overall, I love HTC products. I like their software, and it's been working well for me. Just a few things that I didn't like about it, again, being I wish the display was a little bit brighter. I wish it'd include the wireless charging, things like that. But overall, a really great device that I would easily recommend to other people. I wish HTC would get out of their troubles, but I don't think it's going to happen because they're not selling in carrier stores and they don't have the marketing resources that Samsung does. So while I don't think that they're going to really get out of their troubles they're facing, I do wish them the best because I do like their products. But yeah, overall, that's my review of the HTC U12 Plus. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. If you haven't done so already, hit subscribe, and I will see you again in the next one.